Okay, so in this video now we are going to discuss about kingdom Plantae. Alright, so the LO is to describe the characteristic of kingdom Plantae, where under the kingdom of Plantae there are phylum Bryophyta, phylum Hepatophyta, phylum, oh sorry, this is should be Monilophyta. Okay, phylum Monilophyta, Lycophyta, Coniferophyta, and Enthophyta. Okay, right. So before we proceed, so I've made this summary, right, about kingdom of Plantae. So the kingdom of Plantae or plants are basically divided into two: non-vascular plant and also vascular plant. So what is the idea that you can get from non-vascular plant? Non-vascular plants mean they do not have xylem or phloem. There is no vascular tissue, in other words. Okay, and for vascular plant, they have the development of xylem and phloem, or presence of vascular tissue. That is why the first category is divided as under non-vascular and vascular plant. Okay, so for non-vascular plant, you can see here there are two phylum. Phylum Bryophyta, example is Polytrichum and Sphagnum, and phylum Hepatophyta. Example here is Marchantia. So another features of non-vascular plant are like this one. The dominant stage of the life cycle is gametophyte, which I will explain all the details in the next slide. Under the vascular plant, right, you can see that all vascular plant has dominant stage of the life cycle, or the dominant generation of the life cycle is sporophyte. So vascular plant then subdivided into two: seedless vascular plant and also seed vascular plant. So under the seedless vascular plant, why is it called as seedless vascular plant? Because they are producing spores, right? Where for seed vascular plant, because they have development of seed. All right. So under the seedless vascular plant, there are two phylum: phylum Lycophyta and phylum Monilophyta. Example of phylum Lycophyta is Selaginella and also Lycopodium, and example of phylum Monilophyta are fern. Right, okay. Then under the seed vascular plant, we have two phylums, phylum Enthophyta, right, which is the angiosperm, tumbuhan-tumbuhan berbunga, and also the second one is gymnosperm, right, that have four phylums. Okay, phylum Genetophyta, phylum Ginkgophyta, phylum Cichidophyta, and phylum Coniferophyta. So these are the summary to make you understand how kingdom of Plantae are divided. Okay, right. Now let's start with the general characteristic of Plantae. So plant have alteration of generation, which we call as gametophyte and sporophyte. Okay, meaning that among ataupun within the life cycle akan ada certain stage yang dia dalam keadaan gametophyte, and another part of the cycle will be in sporophyte. Okay, so the first stage of the life cycle is gametophyte. Gametophyte is multicellular haploid generation, so meaning it is haploid. Gametophyte is haploid, and the function of gametophyte is to produce gamete, which is egg and also the sperm. As for multicellular diploid stage of the life cycle is the sporophyte, and sporophyte is 2N or diploid. Right, and the function of sporophyte is to produce spore. So gametophyte produce gamete, sporophyte produce spore. Okay, right. So mitotic division of a spore will produce new multicellular gametophyte. So from this spore itself, the spore will develop or undergo mitotic division and produce gametophyte. Okay, so let's see from here. Okay, this is haploid multicellular organism that we call as gametophyte. Gametophyte is haploid, and so gametophyte purposely to produce gamete. The gamete is produced via mitosis, not meiosis. right? That's why the gamete is still having Purody number, which is N haploid. So gametophyte produce gamete, egg, and also sperm. So when the egg and sperm undergo fertilization, it will produce zygote. So the zygote is 2N. Okay, so the zygote will undergo mitotic division and then develop into diploid multicellular organism that we call as sporophyte. So sporophyte is 2N. So sporophyte purposely producing spores. So the spore will be produced via meiosis. That's why the spore will be N, right? And the spore will undergo multiple division, right, or mitotic division and develop back into multicellular gametophyte. So that is how the alteration of generation takes place between gametophyte and sporophyte. Okay, so remember non-vascular plant, right? Plantae are divided into, plants are divided into non-vascular plant and also vascular plant. Under vascular plant, there are seedless vascular plant and seed plant. Okay, non-vascular plant have three phylums over here: phylum Hepatophyta and phylum Bryophyta that we are going to learn. So the example here are mosses and also liverworts. Okay, for a seedless vascular plant, we have two phylum, phylum Lycophyta and also Monilophyta, right? The fern, example Monilophytes. This is fern ataupun paku pakis. Okay, and for a seed vascular plant, they are gymnosperm and angiosperm. For gymnosperm, you can see there are four phylums over here. All right, and for angiosperm, there is only one phylum, phylum Entophyta. Okay, so we are going to start with a non-vascular plant. Okay, remember, for non-vascular plant, right, there are only two phylums, phylum Bryophyta and phylum Hepatophyta. Example of phylum Bryophyta is Polytrichum and phylum Hepatophyta example is Marchantia. So what is the dominant stage of the life cycle? Remember, in the life cycle, there are stage of gametophyte and sporophyte. For non-vascular plant, the dominant stage of the life cycle is gametophyte. Dua-dua ni. Right? The dominant stage of the life cycle is gametophyte. What is the structure of the gametophyte, or how the gametophyte looks like? So for Bryophyta, the gametophyte looks like leaf-like structure, whereby for Hepatophyta, it is look like flat thallus structure. Okay, all right. So now let's continue. Okay, non-vascular plant, all right, the bryophytes. So remember, the haploid dominant stage of the life cycle is gametophyte. Why does the gametophyte is the dominant in the life cycle of a non-vascular plant? Because gametophyte is the largest and the most conspicuous. Conspicuous here mean obvious. Dia yang paling besar, dia yang paling jelas kelihatan as compared to the sporophyte. As for the sporophyte are smaller and it is attached to the gametophyte. So in other words, sporophyte bergantung or dependent or attached to the gametophyte. Okay, right. Next, bryophyte spores germinate and grow into gametophyte. Remember, spores will undergo mitosis, right? And will be forming multicellular gametophytes. Okay, so most bryophytes, or meaning that the bryophyta, right, are lacking of vascular tissue, meaning they do not have xylem and phloem, do not have true root, stem, or leaf. So how can they manage to get nutrient? So they manage to get nutrient because they have a tiny structure called as rhizoid. So rhizoid is root-like functioning, where it helps to anchor the surface and helps to absorb water. And usually non-vascular plant requires moist environment for them to grow and develop, right? So the non-vascular plants have this general characteristic, where now let's see the first phylum, which is phylum Bryophyta, the mosses. Ataupun kita panggil bahasa Melayu, mosses ni adalah lumut, macam lumut, ya. Right. So the gametophyte is dominant. Remember, dominant stage of the life cycle is gametophyte. The gametophyte have a small leaf-like structure right here that is spirally around a stem-like axis. Okay, you can see here in the phylum of Bryophyta, example here Polytrichum, you have a capsule containing ataupun sporangia that contain spores. Okay, and this is the gametophyte. Okay, as for phylum Hepatophyta or liverworts, okay, you can see that the liverworts have flattened gametophyte, or we call as flat thallus with loops. Okay, this is the flat thallus with loops, and you have here separate male and female gametophyte. So this is male gametophyte with male thallus, and this is female gametophyte with female thallus. The male gametophyte produce antheridia with sperm cell, whereby female gametophyte produce produce archegonia with egg. Right? You can see here how to differentiate male and female gametophyte. So male gametophyte usually have flattened gametophyte like this, whereby the female gametophyte has so-called like coconut tree-like structure. Right? So that is how to differentiate male and female gametophyte. Okay, in asexual reproduction, you can see it produces gamma from gamma cup on the thallus. So you can see here, this is thallus. On the thallus, there is gamma cup where it produces gamma here within the gamma cup. Example of Hepatophyta is Marchantia species. Alright, so again, you can see here, this is the gametophyte, female gametophyte, and the left here is the male gametophyte. So within the gametophyte, you can see there is sporophyte that containing sporangium with spores. Okay, right. So this is a sporangium that contains spores in the sporophyte generation of Marchantia. Okay, this is all about non-vascular plant.